Ladies and gentlemen, club presidents, coaches, players and referees, welcome to the season launch of the 2012 Forestry Tasmania Southern Premier League. And what a year it is promising to be in both the women's and the men's competitions. Already we've had huge scorelines, new trophy holders and plenty to get excited about as we look ahead to this weekend and the round one fixtures. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Callum Pask. I'm a proud Northwest coaster whose heyday was playing for Devonport City back in the early 2000s. Now I have to be content with living through others as I cover the Southern Premier League online along with Julius Ross, who also writes for the Mercury. I suppose it's only warranted at this point that I give ourselves a shameless plug. So can I urge everyone to jump onto the backpost.net to follow all the action on game days and throughout the week. But enough about me and why you should all log on to the back post. At this time I'd like to formally welcome our special guests for this evening. The Clarence Mayor, Doug Chipman, Forestry Tasmania Managing Director Bob Gordon, General Manager of Corporate Relations Ken Jeffries, and also a few apologies. Parliament is running late tonight and Michelle O'Byrne does send her apologies. She may be a late attendee, but we'll just see. They've been having a fair bit of action down there today, apparently. Other apologies are the Federal Member for Denison, Andrew Wilkie, the Little Spokesperson for Sport, Mark Shelton, Tim Morris, Green Spokesperson for Sport, Hobart Lord Mayor, Damon Thomas, Glenorchy Mayor, Stuart Slade, Kingborough Mayor, Graham Berry, and long-time supporter of the game and football journalist, Walter Pless. I'd also like to welcome the FFT President, Sean Collins, FFT Board Member Jack Johnston, other board members and FFT CEO John Borlas. There's no doubt that this is an exciting year to be involved in local football. We've seen perhaps the biggest Australian football star ever to grace the playing fields in our state in the form of Harry Kewell. And locally we've got a proposed state league firmly on the agenda. 2012 may yet be a major player in the shape of Tasmanian football into the future. Before I introduce our first speaker this evening, I'd also like to thank those who have generously donated the Bogues, Brown Brothers and Schweppes drinks that you're consuming this evening. Fiona Lowe, I believe, is here from Brown Brothers for the wine, Bronwyn Mackey at Schweppes, Martin Kelly at Bogues, and I'd also like to thank the Forest Education Foundation for lending us their fabulous facility for the launch tonight.
Thanks, Callum. Welcome everybody. It's great to see you all here. I'm not going to talk for long because this is the launch of our season, which is about the players and the officials and the clubs. I did want to thank Forestry Tasmania as our sponsor once again, and this year they're sponsoring both men and women's, which is fantastic, Northern and Southern Premier Leagues. It is actually a pleasure to, as president, to have a sponsor like Forestry Tasmania because they have such a close tie-in to the values of our organisation, being the Football Federation. We're a community-based organisation. We totally depend on the community. That's where we get our support. That's where all our players come. That's what we're about. And we also like to think that we're about a sustainable future. Callum mentioned about the T-League, and I'll talk about that in a second. We would love to get that going again, but we don't want it to just get going for a year or two. We've planned a lot for this, and when we do get it going, we wanted to get it going on a sustainable basis. So I think both the community and the sustainability are such close links to the values that forestry has. It's really fantastic. You're here in this building. In addition to their generous sponsorship, we get in-kind sponsorship from forestry. Your board meets upstairs, and forestry loan is their boardroom. Every time we have something like that or an occasion like this, it's basically saving our stakeholders money. We don't have to go out and hire a venue. So I just would like specifically to thank Forestry, and please join me in thanking them. We're nothing without the clubs, the club presidents, the officials, the people who work on the committees, all the volunteers, people who man the kiosks, who do all the stuff behind getting a team out. Thank you very much. Our game couldn't exist without you. The players, I've had a lovely, I suppose, playing history, and all I did was turn up. Just turn up, train and play, and behind that there are all these people who did all these things each week, As players, for those who are here representing your teammates, please never take your committee or your president for granted, because they do a hell of a lot and you wouldn't be playing without them. Similarly, the officials, we've got a nice sprinkling of referees here, so I want you to be nice to them, talk nicely. They are nice people and they won't bite. Again, I thank the officials, because you won't have a game without them. You'll be out there fighting. Finally, just a couple of words on the season to come and some of the things that we're planning as your board. It was a great start to the season with the Summer Cup. We tried something different this year with the arrangements. Marvellous to be able to play over at Olympia's ground and have the whole ground, the ground being used for the whole day, just game after game. A great atmosphere. I congratulate Olympia for the facility they put on and made available to the football community. And I think it worked really well. And same with the final day, where we had all those matches at KGV on Saturday, and we had 700 or 800 people there. It was really good. The other thing I'd like to mention, for those people who don't know, is the work that's gone on to upgrade KGV in terms of getting funding for the Glenorchy precinct upgrade. I was just talking to the Glenorchy Council General Manager before he left, Peter, and he's hoping that at the end of our season, so about October, that work will start. So for those of you who are not aware, this is the 1.2 million that we've been successful in getting from federal funding. So I thank the feds for this. We're very badly in need of infrastructure in our game. We have a nice problem to solve, which is growth. We get about 25% of our junior matches are cancelled each year due to bad weather. This is the start of it. To have an all-weather pitch in Glenorchy, we can use this for 12 months. We can use it for a hell of a lot more games than the 5 or 6 that we use it for at the moment. A great thing, really fantastic. It's not the end; it's just the start. That helps us with the more elite side of our game. We have a lot of work to do for juniors. So we will be working in the next 12 months to still progress our concept of a football precinct. Again, just basically think of the hockey centre, something like that, which we can use for juniors. We have such a demand for our code. The code itself sells itself, but we will need support, and we will need funding from all layers of government. It is a great return on investment. We have such a healthy sport, so just remember that. And any opportunity you have to talk to your favourite politician, we have a couple of representatives here tonight, get on to them. Finally, the T-League. So, as Callum has mentioned, we're really hopeful that we can get this started again next year. So shortly the applications will go out to the clubs for those interested in joining the T-League next year. It is conditional on funding. We do need a sponsor to cover the costs of travel for the clubs, and we're going pretty well on that. So the other thing with that is we're looking at 8 clubs to start with. So some won't get in. Just accept that what we're trying to do is for the good of the game. We want it to be an elite competition. We want it to be a high standard. By definition, that does mean it is actually going to be fewer, certainly to start with anyway. If we can grow it in future years, then fantastic. So I'll finish on that. Just to thank you all for coming. Once again, to thank our sponsors, Forestry Tasmania. It really is marvellous to be joined with you like this.
One of those shirts the kids gave me that said, the older I get, the better I was. Welcome to the launch. Welcome to the Mayor of Clarence, Doug Chipman, who's a great supporter of community involvement in sport. Thanks for coming, Doug. This is the 4th year FT's been the principal sponsor of FF2. You're probably aware it's been pretty tough in the forest industries the last couple of years. And when we agreed to sponsor FF2, we've continued that sponsorship. It's by far our biggest sponsorship as a company. And despite the tough times, one of our values is we do what we say we'll do, and we said we'd sponsor it, and we're proud to be continuing sponsors of football in Tasmania. It's great to have the women's game recognised as well. I've been to a couple of games in the last couple of years, and the standard has just improved out of sight. I think the improvement in the skill levels and the way the game's played in the women really shows that Tasmania is probably capable of having a look at playing at the national level in the women's part of the sport as well. As Sean said, we're also excited that the new updated website's being launched, and FFT is making a real effort to get into the online community. I know my kids don't talk to people anymore, they just go on the internet or Facebook or Twitter, and they communicate with each other even from the same room by Twitter sometimes. And I think that new look at marketing and doing things a bit differently is going to pay dividends. I'd like to congratulate John Boulis and the board for appointing Ben. I think he's going to be a breath of fresh air, and if he's not, we'll be breathing down his neck. But again, I think tonight again was well organised. I think it's a good function, and it's great to see all the clubs represented. I went to a game on, must have been Monday night at Olympia. I just wanted to thank what I think is a great initiative that Olympia and particularly George have done. It shows what's possible in terms of getting a facility that's all year round, weatherproof, and you can just play as many games as you like on it. So, if that is George.
Thank you, Bob.
I'm looking forward to the first game on Friday night. I hope I'll get along and have a bit of a look. And I wish everyone here a great season and continue the great work, not just as a sport, but for the work that's being done, particularly with the juniors. It's a real community grassroots game, and it should continue like that.
I'd like to acknowledge the Football Federation of Tasmania President Sean Collins, Board Member Jack Johnston and CEO John Boulis, the Clarence Mayor Doug Chipman, Glenorchy Council General Manager Peter Brooks, the Forestry Tasmania Managing Director Bob Gordon and General Manager of Relations Ken Jeffries. But just as importantly, I'd like to also acknowledge all of the club presidents, the coaches, the referees and the players, and also other invited guests. As advised, Michelle couldn't be here tonight, the Minister couldn't be here tonight to officially open the season, but she would have been delighted to be here because she's a strong supporter of all sport and particularly of football. And I know her children play football as well, and she's very cognisant of your need for grounds and also the great developments that you've been making in recent years. The Tasmanian Government's been a strong supporter of football. As we know, football is one of the largest participation sports nationally, and in Tasmania has had strong growth at all levels in recent years. The cream of the pathway is in fact the Forestry Tasmania Men's and Women's Premier League competitions in the south and the north. The leagues are vibrant and provide the best avenue for people to continue the game and for the Football Federation of Tasmania to promote the game. We're here tonight to launch the Forestry Tasmania Southern Men's and Women's Premier League, and some of the most talented players in the state compete in these competitions. And I know it also provides a very good pathway for referees and for coaches and for other aspects of the game as well. Most of the players in football have started at a very young age and compete with their junior clubs. Football promotes all of the things that Sport and Recreation Tasmania and the state government think are important in sport. Lifelong participation, whether that's as a player. I too don't have a stellar career in football. At the risk of a Sarah Palin reference, I was a football mum for a long time. I drove kids around to various grounds. But lifelong participation, whether as a player, a referee, an administrator or a volunteer who supports in some way. Enjoyment in the sport, and you only have to go to any one of the myriad of grounds around southern Tasmania, or any part of Tasmania really, on a Saturday morning or other parts of the weekend and watch the enjoyment that players get out of play. It's also important that the sport provides the best opportunity for players, referees and officials to develop into being the best that they can be within the sport. And that's certainly one of the things that the sport does well and continues to do well and is doing a better job of. I'd like to acknowledge the club presidents. The state government through Sport and Recreation Tasmania supported the development at Olympia and worked with George and his crew over there, I guess, to contribute towards that, although our contribution may have been somewhat small compared to some others. But we certainly also continue to support Football Federation of Tasmania in all of its development pathways and its programs, and work with John and his team on a number of initiatives. Obviously, any sport, any activity is only as good as its sponsors, and it must be a delight to all at Football Federation of Tasmania to have the support of Forestry Tasmania in what has been trying times, and that support is invaluable to enable the sport to grow. I declare it open and wish you every best.